if you want to kind of go a little more in depth about sort of the two molds that you see most common as factors in sort of like the reproductive immunology piece of it.
Absolutely. So the big one that I commonly see that I really like to draw attention to because I don't feel like it gets enough airtime is zearalenone. Zearalenone is an estrogenic mycotoxin. So what it does is it's nonsteroidal, but it mimics estrogen in the body. Not uncommon that a lot of people who are otherwise healthy and mindful about their diets and their lifestyles are going to have high ZEN. Part of that is because it can come from fusarium mold, which is commonly found on contaminated grains, to include things like oats, barley, and rice. So very common that we'll see this where somebody has made a otherwise good decision to reduce gluten intake, but instead is now relying on other grains like rice. And what happens is this mycotoxin can change the way that hormones function throughout the body. So, for instance, I see oftentimes that women will feel like they have symptom presentations that mimic estrogen dominance, where maybe they're having heavier, painful menstruation, they're experiencing breast tenderness and PMS, and they're just sure that they have estrogen dominance. But then when you look at hormone testing, they actually have an estrogen deficiency and they're stumped. Why is this happening? And what happens is the brain has a negative feedback loop. So essentially, it is perceiving that these estrogen receptor sites are being impacted by ZEN, where it is being bound, presenting in the body as estrogen, and therefore downregulating the endogenous production of estradiol, which is very important when we think about not only hormones as a whole, but fertility, because we have to have adequate estradiol to not only support ovulation occurring so that we can select a dominant follicle, but then also thinking about maintaining receptivity and uterine lining throughout the course of the cycle as well. So, very common that this is a little bit of a confusing one because we think about estrogen must be too high. And so we do things to drive it down further, not realizing that it's not actually a dominance issue, it's more of a deficiency issue. And mold is kind of playing a trick on us as part of this process. The other one that I often see, it's not uncommon that you'll see a lot of ochratoxin A. Ochratoxin A is frequently coming from homes. It can come from foods as well, but not uncommon when you're seeing really elevated levels that it is coming from a water damaged building situation. Where it's coming from food is going to be your grains. It's also very commonly found in contaminated coffee beans. It's estimated that somewhere between 70 and 80% of coffee beans are contaminated with ochratoxin, which is then being introduced into our bodies and causing more of a not only mycotoxin exposure issue, but can cause colonization throughout the body, depending on how much coffee you are consuming. But really common to see in homes because it's produced by both Aspergillus as well as Penicillium species in water damaged homes, which are some of the most common species that cause mold toxicity in homes. So those are the two ones that I'm really thinking about, and they can ochratoxin in particular can cause a lot of neuroinflammation and impact the ability of the immune system to be regulated by the entire nervous system as a whole. As well as the ability to communicate with endocrine glands. So not uncommon that you'll see miscommunication between the brain and endocrine glands, whether it's the ovaries or even the thyroid and the adrenal glands, because of the way that the pituitary in particular is being impacted by mold.